Everybody, can you hear me back in the back? All right. If you can't move up front, you can ask us to speak louder, and we'll try and do that as well. So we're going to go ahead and call to order the Morgan County Board of Zoning Appeals for February 26th, 2024. We do have a quorum this evening with all board members present. And at this time, we ask Board Member Rumbaugh to lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'd join me in standing and doing the pledge. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Rumbaugh. Gentlemen, we were sent copies of our last month's meeting minutes. Were there any changes or corrections that need to be made to those minutes?
Didn't see any. I approve. I move to approve as sent.
We're trying.
One more table up front.
Yeah, I can't hear very good either. That's why I'm sitting here.
Our system's not working.
I said to approve them as sent, so.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? All right. All right. No changes or corrections to the minutes. Open for a motion to accept the minutes.
I said accept the minutes as sent.
Mr. Rumbaugh makes a motion to accept the minutes as sent. Do I have a second to that motion? I do. For Mr. Crone. All in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. 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 Minutes are approved. We all received a copy of the agenda in advance of the meeting tonight as well. Were there any changes, corrections, additions, or deletions to the agenda? Nope. Open for a motion to approve the agenda.
Approve the agenda.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second to that? Thank you, Mr. McGrath. Seconds. All in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. The agenda is approved. At this time, I'm going to ask the board's attorney, Ms. Terrell, to please swear in all those that want to speak tonight. Thank you, Ms. Terrell. Couple housekeeping things here. Can you hear me? All right. Couple housekeeping things. So when we get going tonight, we're going to ask anybody who's signed up to speak on one of the applications to come forward to the podium. We ask that each of you start out by giving us your name and your address, and we will call you up as you have signed in order on the sheets. But again, give us your name and address, speak into the microphone so that not only we can hear it, but everyone else can hear it as well. If you're not doing that, we'll stop you and ask you to do so. So please keep that in mind. So our first item on the agenda this evening's old business. It's public hearing SE-24-01. Dale Coffey, on behalf of Laura and Eric Johnson, is requesting a special exception use to operate a home-based business in an ag zone district. The property is located at 9461 North Staten Drive in Madison Township and is zoned for agriculture. I'm going to recuse myself from this particular application request and turn this portion of the meeting over to Mr. Rumball, the Vice Chairman, to conduct this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Rumball.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Coffey.
Good evening, Mr. Rimbaugh.
Hang on, give me 1 second, Dale. See, here is everybody.
All set.
Thank you. Evening, board members. My name is Dale Coffey, as the chairman said, and I am here tonight representing Eric and Laura Johnson concerning this request before you for a special exception on use. Johnsons do live at 9461 North Staten Drive in Mooresville, and that is a parcel of approximately 2 acres. It is zoned agricultural, and they're here tonight. Their request tonight is for them to be able to park. They own a tree trimming company, and so within that company they have a bucket truck. They have a couple of other trucks that they utilize in the tree trimming. They have some trailers, and they have a skid steer, those sorts of things. They live obviously on Staten Drive. They've been parking their vehicles there at their residence. Mr. Johnson leaves in the morning, he comes home at night, he leaves with his tree trimming trucks, he goes to whatever job he's doing off-site, and then he comes back home at night and parks them. And so that's what we're here tonight for. The ordinance specifies operate a home-based business. Well, to be quite honest, it's not a home-based business. It's a tree trimming company. He does all his work off-site, and all he does is park his vehicles there. Okay, they are parked outside. There is a pole barn there, but it's not large enough to get his bucket truck under, so he doesn't have any covered building he can park in at this time. So that's what he's been doing. The house sits closer to the road, which is Staten Drive, and then the pole barn and the area where he parks the trucks are further back from the road. This particular property they have owned for, I think, 2 years. They used to live across the street on Staten Drive, but he's had these tree trimming company for a while, so the equipment's been parked there. He also, in the course of his work, has access to wood. And that's important to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson because they heat with wood. And not only do they heat with wood as far as a wood-burning stove for the winter and for heat, they warm up their hot water and to heat their hot water. So they're constantly burning wood year-round. So they do have wood he brings in, he cuts up, he splits it, and he uses it for personal use. So any wood that he brings on site is for his personal use. He also does have a bit of a hobby in that he makes some chainsaw art. So occasionally some of this wood he'll use that for, but everything he brings in would be for personal use. So we got here tonight because of a complaint from, I believe, a neighbor complaining about these vehicles being parked there. So that's what led to our application being filed before you this evening. Our position on this is that we don't believe it's a detriment to the neighborhood. We don't believe at all it detracts from the value or the use of other people's property. Got a few handouts I want to hand out to you, and I think the first one this evening would just be basically a map of the area so you folks can kind of get an idea of where the lot is that the Johnsons own and in relativity to the closest county road, which is Watson Road. So let me pass that out at this time.
Thank you.
Not sure. Oh. So the highlighted lot is lot 24A. That is the Johnson's property. As you can see, it is the fourth property north of Watson Road on this particular map. So tonight, as part of the request, if approved, Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Johnson would agree that whenever they are utilizing, bringing their equipment out onto the State Drive going to a job, they will enter and exit from Watson Road. So it would basically, we believe it's fairly close, as you can see from the map, to Watson Road onto Staten Drive. A little background about Staten Drive, and I guess I'll qualify first by telling you I know a little bit about it because in 2017 there was a lawsuit filed over some covenants and restrictions, and particularly over maintenance of these roads. And I happen to represent 35 of the defendants in that case, and we were defending against having to pave these private easements within Staten Place. It's a subdivision. So the end result of that was we were successful in that the court found that the maintenance agreement contained in the covenants and restrictions stood, and that these roads, there was no requirement they had to be paved. They started out when the subdivision was developed many years ago as crushed stone. Okay, that was the basis for these roads, surface-wise. Over the years, they have changed, and being private easements the way they are drafted, it is, and the maintenance agreement says that each lot owner will be responsible for a contribution to the maintenance. That's the way they read. Well, the problem with that came when originally there were so many lots, and as you can see from this map, there started to be divisions of the lots. And that's why we have 24A, 24B, 23A, all these. So anyway, I'm getting a little bit off track here, but they are private easements. It was originally crushed stone. And if you go out there and drive around, which many of you already may have, you probably found that there's various stretches of this road. It is different surfaces. Some have asphalt. And that's where the own neighbors, the landowners, decided to pay themselves to asphalt the road. And so they did it in front of their house. Other places it's pure crushed stone. Other places that's a hodgepodge. It would have been at one time maybe some millings. At other times it was crushed stone brought in. It could have been patched in the past by some asphalt. But I can tell you that the stretch from Watson Road to 24A is a hodgepodge. But Mr. Johnson in January of this year, so just about a month ago, brought in 20 tons of 53s, and he put it on the road and did some grading to fill in basically the potholes, because the holes were where people travel with the tires. So he does contribute, his wife contributes to the maintenance as according to the maintenance agreement within the covenants and restrictions. My point in saying all this is that there's been some concern, and we'll hear in just a few minutes from the staff, and their concern is that this equipment, these vehicles for tree trimming service, are too heavy for these roads. And that brings me to my next handout that I'll have, because my client actually spent some time for you and did some research on basically the load pursuant to the weight of a vehicle and compared to other vehicles, and you'll see it on the map that I pass out. He also did that as to axle weight distribution, and then he finally did it as to the wheel weight distribution. And I think when you look at this, you'll see that, a bucket truck is a heavy truck, no question about it. Some of these other equipment that he uses are heavy equipment. But if you stretch it out over particularly the wheel weight distribution, so the pounds per wheel, I think you're going to maybe be a bit surprised, as I was, as to what other vehicles weigh in regards to that weight distribution. And you'll see on the graph that if you look at a trash truck and a delivery truck, they weigh more wheel weight distribution than his bucket truck. So my point is that these folks living out there, it's zoned agricultural, but there are a lot of residential homes. They get deliveries just like you and I do, whether it be Amazon, FedEx, UPS, whatever. So we have weight for those trucks on here per wheel distribution. And also, obviously, everyone out there has private trash service. So the trash truck's going down this road on a regular basis, and not just one service, but 3 different services. And those don't all go on the same day. So my point is that we've got other vehicles out there that are using these roads, and that Mr. Johnson coming and going from Watson Road just to his property is not an unusual burden upon these roadways. So I'm going to pass this other wheel weight distribution graph out this time.
Thank you.
As you can see from your packet, I had prepared some particular findings. I know you'll look over those and go through those at this time, or later, I guess. But our position is that, again, this is a special use exception, so it is allowed if you approve it within an agricultural zoning. We're not looking at rezoning or anything of that nature. We're willing to commit as part of this to the equipment being brought in from Watson Road to Lot 24A. And when it leaves 24A, again, transversing out to Watson Road. And we'll agree to park this in the back of the property, which is close, or what I would say behind the pole barn, so that if you're right in front of the home from State and Place looking onto the Johnson home, you wouldn't be able to see it. Now, obviously, once you Watson Road pulling in, you're probably going to be able to see it. If you're coming the other way from the north, traveling towards Watson Road, you're probably going to see it as well, just because it's not screened. There's no fencing. There's no anything of that nature. But we would keep it as hid as much as we can. Okay. Also, I wanted to point out that at certain times, and Mr. Johnson's done a lot of work recently in trying to get it back in shape, but he did bring in quite a bit of wood and got busy and didn't have a chance to chop it up and cut it up. I believe he's got all that done now and stacked. And so in the future, obviously, he would agree that as he brings those logs in and woods in, he's going to split them and cut them as quick as he can, because again, that's what he heats with. That's what he needs, and he heats his water with it. So he does use it on a regular basis every day. Finally, I know there's some folks here that's going to speak in a little bit, either for or against this proposal tonight, but some folks that could not be here this evening. Mr. Johnson did go around and talk to those folks, and I have their names and addresses. I'm going to pass this list out to you of folks that have no problem with Mr. and Mrs. Johnson's request tonight. They're not here to remonstrate, so they have no problem with him parking the vehicles that he parks there. So I'm going to go ahead and pass that out at this time as well.
Thank you.
With that, I would entertain any questions you have. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson are here this evening, so if there's any questions that you may have that I can't particularly answer, hopefully one of them can.
Gentlemen, questions?
Not at this time.
No, I don't have any right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have quite a list of people that have signed up to support this petition. We have people who are interested in this petition, just questions. And we have people in opposition to the petition. We will call up people who are now in support. You don't have to come up if you don't want to, if someone said anything for you. But the first one I've got, I think, is Brett O. Plunkett? Yes, sir. Would you care to step forward? No, I'm fine. I'm just here to support. Thank you very much. Laura Johnson. Thank you. Eric Johnson.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm more happy to answer anything you have.
Are you willing to come up and speak now, or do you wish to not speak? I can speak if you like. You're called up right now. This is your only chance. Yes, sir. Yes, tell us why you think we should vote for your petition.
Okay, so we moved into the neighborhood. We actually moved in across the street, and then it would just be south one lot, so the little 1 acre lot there. Oh, wonderful. Right here. So this is where we moved in 2014. We now currently obviously live here. But in 2020, I started this company. I had about the same amount of trucks and equipment that I currently have. I haven't really grown that much, but it was, at one point, I had people parking in my front yard to come work for me. They would park in the grass along this stretch of road right here. And for 3 years, nobody's ever had a problem with it. We've done plenty of tree work for plenty of people in the neighborhood. Nobody ever had a problem with the tree company, the wood. We heated our home only with wood while we were there. We had a fireplace insert, so I was obviously bringing wood in to burn. And now, like Dale mentioned, we heat the house with it. We heat our shop with it, so that's over 5,000 square feet that I'm currently heating. Plus, we have our hot water. My hot water heater has been shut off at the breaker for over a year, and we never run out of hot water. This is just my fuel source and just my business. That's really all I have to say. If you guys have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer anything you guys have.
I guess my question would be, knowing the circumstances out there better than we do, or I do anyhow, any particular problem that they would like you to resolve, or is it just something that we don't know?
Well, you know, in my own summation, these roads have been a problem since before I lived there. I have plenty of photos I can show you. Right now, I have them here on my tablet. I'm more than welcome to put them on the screen or whatever you want. Of the condition of the road over the last 10 years, and particularly the last 4 years, there really has been there's no major, like, oh wow, you guys really rutted up this area, or there's no single spots that we can find that my equipment did it, right? They're just vehicles. We don't drive more than about 15 miles an hour out of the neighborhood. It's a gravel road. Why would I? There's always been an issue with these roads since before I moved in, and even once I'm gone, I'm sure somebody will have a problem with these roads. And it seems that people are just looking for a scapegoat, trying to get somebody else to pay for it.
Is that lot, as you stand on the road looking at your property to the right, is that a lot for sale?
It is not. I have tried to buy it. It is not for sale. It is a friend of mine, and they have no desire to sell it at current.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Joshua Beal. Speak. You wish to speak? No, I'm just here in support. Thank you. That ends the people in support of the petition. Be fine if I could split the piece of paper, but okay, we have two people that are interested in the petition, and that's Robert Renag. Don't care to speak? Thank you. Patty Cooper? Care to speak? I got no comments. No, thank you. Thank you very much for signing up. Now, these are people petitions, opposition to the petition. When you come up, please state your name and your address. Tom Harper.
My name's Tom Harbour, 9565 Staten Drive.
You said 95?
Yeah, 95.
Got it.
9565
Yeah,
Staten
thank you
Drive.
very much.
And I'd just like to say a few things. I was one of the first ones to ever build back in this place 31 years ago. And at that time, there was no businesses allowed, and I always thought that's how it was going to stay. Well, now, it's all changed. The neighborhood is not quiet no more. All you hear is chainsaws all day long. And the noise of the chainsaws and things like that is just crazy. And the selling of the firewood, there's other vehicles coming down with trailers, going straight on through the neighborhood and straight out, loading up with firewood and coming out. They don't have to keep them roads up. We have to keep them up. And the big trucks are tearing the roads up with their trailers, and the roads are not wide enough. The school bus does not come down any of the roads. They come in off of Kitchen, where the kids have to get on at the Kitchen Road or Watson Road. They're not up to county code, so they don't even allow the school buses to come down them. So why would you allow these big trucks to come down pulling trailers, and all these people are walking their dogs, they're pushing strollers with kids, the kids are riding their bicycles, they have to get off the edge of the roads, in ditches, whatever. And I just don't think it's right. I've been there, like I say, 31 years, and there was no business there then, and I think it ought to stay that way. I have 4 grandkids that like to ride bicycles, and sometimes they get out in the roads, and I'd hate to have something happen to them.